what's going on between Israel, Hamas, and Hezbollah. And so put all together, and Iran's threats and some of the things U.S. law enforcement has been ringing the bell. An individual just several months ago arrested for attempting to assassinate a former U.S. political figure here in the United States. The alert level when it comes to protecting political candidates and the amount of threats that are coming in against Donald Trump as well as against his opponent, Vice President Kamala Harris, remain very high. And so I think if there's a better illustration of that, again, pending the motive on this individual and pending what we know as far as this person that's now in custody and a gun being found where they were in the Secret Service firing upon them, still an open question mark. But specifically, we know from the FBI that at this point they do believe that this is an attempted assassination attempt. And I think this changes the entire conversation about security. It remains to be seen, Hallie, but I think it is easy to say and perhaps assume today that the ongoing presidential campaigning as it snakes its way across states across this country will probably look a lot different going forward.
Tom, I'm going to ask you to stand by for just a second. As we are standing by now, we understand that there will be a representative from the Secret Service at this news conference that is about to begin any minute from now. We also understand, of course, that this is led by the Palm Beach Sheriff. I want to bring in Vaughn Hilliard, who covers the Trump campaign for us. What are you hearing from folks on the campaign side, Vaughn? Because our first indication that something significant had happened was when the campaign revealed that gunshots had happened in the vicinity of the former president, quickly clarifying that he was safe.
Right. It was just 2 sentences from a campaign spokesperson who sent out a mass email saying that shots were fired in the vicinity of Donald Trump while he was golfing in West Palm Beach here. For Donald Trump and his campaign, I don't think the gravity of this could be understated. We're 51 days away from the general election. This is just days after the debate between he and Kamala Harris. After the Republican convention, Donald Trump is now clearly more than a political target. There are at least 2 individuals who it appears at this time, per the FBI, saying that it appears that this is an attempted assassination on the life of the former president. Somebody here who is now a very clearly a target of violence here. He has started having outdoor events again, which have been surrounded by plexiglass. I was actually with him at his golf club in Los Angeles just 2 days ago, where he was holding a press conference, and there were multiple Secret Service snipers in the proximity of him there on that golf course there, paying close attention to the surroundings around him. But we have seen most of his events move indoors. He just got back late last night from that West Coast swing there with each of those events that were taking place, other than that golf course press conference happening outside. Those other rallies have been happening indoors here now. But, you know, it was 2 months ago when the first assassination attempt took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. And in the immediate week after that, at the Republican National Convention, you saw a different Donald Trump with a different tenor, a more passive, a more retrospective, a Donald Trump who was calling for the idea of a more unified country, almost taking a step back from the heightened tension that the country, its politics have gone through over the last years. Really, ever since that week, leaving the Republican National Convention, though, we've seen Donald Trump escalate the rhetoric, and we have seen our politics really at perhaps its most divisive point in recent decades here. And for Donald Trump and his campaign, he has been going, has other rallies planned in North Carolina, in Michigan this week. Of course, battleground states, we're looking at early voting starting in places like Wisconsin just this very Thursday here. And this is a moment where we've already seen some allies of his call out the idea that there is an ideation of violence on the political left. Of course, we have seen, as we're looking at here, these shots here getting ready for this press conference, Hallie, I'll pass it back over to you.
We're gonna listen in here to this news conference from the Palm Beach County Sheriff.
From the state attorney's office, we are going to give you everything we have, everything. All right. So when we get done, think about your questions, because we're not going to take a lot, and keep them to the information that you heard. Don't get into what ifs. And because of this, we're not going to go there. All right. So keep that in mind and we'll be good. So here we go. All right. 1:30 this afternoon. Call came out, shots fired. That was called in by the Secret Service. Because we're in constant contact with them all the time, we were notified of that, and we had units here that immediately sealed off the area. Fortunately, we were able to locate a witness that came to us and said, hey, I saw the guy running out of the bushes, he jumped into a black Nissan, and I took a picture of the vehicle and the tag, which was great. So we had that information. Our real-time crime center put it out to the license plate readers. And we were able to get a hit on that vehicle on I-95 as it was headed into Martin County. We got a hold of Martin County Sheriff's Office, alerted them, and they spotted the vehicle and pulled it over and detained the guy. After that, we took the victim, the witness that witnessed the incident, flew him up there, and he identified as the person that he saw running out of the bushes that jumped into the car. Now, in the bushes where this guy was is a AK-47 style rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks which were hung on the fence that had ceramic tile in them, and a GoPro, which he was going to take pictures of. So those are being processed right now. The Secret Service agent that was on the course did a fantastic job. What they do is they have an agent that jumps one hole ahead of time to where the president was at. And he was able to spot this rifle barrel sticking out of the fence and immediately engage that individual, at which time the individual took off. So that's what we know about the investigation. We have somebody in custody right now that is a potential suspect. We got a little bit more work to do on it, but as we usually do, as soon as we decide that we're going to book him into the county jail and the charges that he's going to be booked into, we'll get those to you and we'll get a picture of him and we'll get you his background. So now I'm going to turn it over to the representative of the Secret Service, and he's going to make a brief statement.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I first want to thank all of our law enforcement partners, to include the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office and the Martin County Sheriff's Office, for their involvement today. Former President Donald Trump is safe and unharmed following a protective incident shortly before 2 p.m. on Sunday at Trump International Golf Club at West Palm Beach. The U.S. Secret Service personnel opened fire on a gunman located near the property line, and this matter is under investigation. I'll turn it over to my partners over at the FBI.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Veltri. I'm the special agent in charge of the FBI's Miami field office. The FBI has assumed the role as the lead federal law enforcement agency in the investigation of the incident that occurred earlier today at Trump International Golf Course here in West Palm Beach, Florida. We've deployed a number of resources, including investigative teams, crisis response team members, bomb technicians, and evidence response team members as well. What we need right now is for the public to avoid the area around the golf course. We will continue to support this investigation with the full resources of the FBI, alongside our partners with the United States Secret Service and the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office, as well as Martin County Sheriff's Office and state and local law enforcement. I would ask that if anyone has any information that may assist with this investigation, to contact our tip line at 1-800-CALL-FBI or at tips, that's tips.fbi.gov. Thank you.
David?
Hi, I'm Dave Ehrenberg, State Attorney for Palm Beach County. I want to thank Sheriff Bradshaw and our partners at the local, state, and federal levels. I'm here because our prosecutors are currently working up warrants and a motion for pretrial detention for the suspect. In that way, he will be kept in custody. But our filing of these warrants and charges at the state level does not preclude federal charges that could be coming. But in the meantime, it looks like the warrants and the pretrial detention motion will happen first. And again, I want to thank the cooperation we've had with our federal partners and at the local level. And thank you all for being here today.
Okay, we're going to make these pictures available to you. It'll show you a picture of the backpack and the rifle. And there's also a GoPro on the fence there where he was intent on filming what was going on. Even though we're going to have to secure a couple of areas around the golf course here, The public doesn't need to panic. We know that we got a post office, a library, and a school down the street. So we'll make it convenient for you to get to all the places you need to go, get your kids to school, get them over here to the post office or wherever else you need to go. It's safe. There's no more danger here, and we'll make it very convenient for you. So having said that, we're going to take a very limited amount of questions, and you can direct them to who you want to answer the question.
Sure, did this individual make any statements that he was being detained?
No statement right now as far as his involvement in the incident, and there's further investigation to be completed.
What was his demeanor?
Yeah, I'm not sure if maybe the Secret Service gentleman answered. I misunderstood, or I couldn't quite understand. So there was a rifle. So one of your agents saw on the golf course saw a rifle pointing to a fence. Was it a chain link? Okay, so he saw that, the agent.
That is correct, yes.
And the president or the former president was on the course behind him. How close?
It was 1 or 2 holes behind.
Understood.
That, because the bubble moves through the golf course, so our agents will get there first, clear it. He noticed that the rifle was pointed out, our agents engaged. We are not sure right now if the individual was able to take a shot at our agents, but for sure our agents were able to engage with the
Was he hit?
I don't know that.
Doesn't appear so.
Is there a motive?
Yep. Al?
How far away was the president? How far away was Donald Trump when this gentleman was caught and stopped?
Probably between 300 and 500 yards, but with a rifle and a scope like that, that's not a long distance.
For the Secret Service, how far was your agent from the would-be assailant?
That I'm not sure right now. We're still looking into it.
Reports of the 4 rounds of ammunition were fired. Were all 4 of those from your agent?
That is correct. 4 to 6. We're not sure yet.
Was there a long distance explaining what?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
And
Yes, ma'am.
On the BF-25, I was wondering what how this was able to happen, and for future reference, is there any up security in the golf course?
I didn't hear all of that. Say that one more time and talk up a little bit.
So how was this able to happen, and for future reference, is there any up security in the golf course?
Well, you got to understand the golf course is surrounded by shrubbery. So when somebody gets into the shrubbery, they're pretty much out of sight. All right. And at this level that he is at right now, he's not the city president. If he was, we would have had this entire golf course around it. Well, because he's not, the security is limited to the areas that the Secret Service deems possible. So I would imagine that the next time he comes to the golf course, there'll probably be a little bit more people around the perimeter. But the Secret Service did exactly what they should have done. They provided exactly what the protection should have been, and their agent did a fantastic job.
Which direction was the shrubbery where he was? North, south? I guess east, west, or south of the road?
The layout of the golf course, you've got 3 holes, 5, 6, and 7. All right. One of them runs parallel to Summit Boulevard. One of them runs parallel to Congress. And he was in an area in the shrubbery where he could see both holes. So the president was another hole back, which means he's about between 400 and 500 yards away.
So he was on the golf course?
Oh, he's on the golf course, yeah, but he's back a ways.
For the Secret Service, have you guys changed at all the way that you guys are protecting former President Donald Trump? It's now a potential second attempt on him. Can you just elaborate on how things have changed and what you make of all this?
Yes, the threat level is high. We have increased the amount of assets that we've supported. So we live in danger times. So yes.
Okay. We're done with questions right now. There's really nothing more for us to add. I just want to tell you, the Secret Service and the FBI and the State Attorney's Office have been fantastic to work with. And I can tell you right now, our agency with this real-time crime center was fabulous. That's how we got the guy. We started out with, we don't know anything, to where we had a tag, we had a vehicle description, and we got an area where we saw the person. So be proud of your law enforcement. All right, thanks, folks. We'll get back to you.
Where on 95 was it?
See you, attorney. Yeah, she'll get the photos to you.
How many minutes each meeting? In sheriff's office.
Okay, you heard it there. That briefing, that update from top state and federal law enforcement officials. Wanted to listen to the end in case there were any more shouted questions. And here now, we have a much more detailed and clearer picture about what happened earlier this afternoon down in South Florida as it related to what the FBI describes as an assassination attempt. Another one now against former President Trump, who the campaign says is safe. So here's what we know based on the information that we just got, that just about 1:30, a Secret Service agent, a couple of holes ahead of former President Trump, maybe one or two, was essentially clearing that area, spotted a rifle barrel in the bushes potentially along the fence line, opened fire. The Secret Service then made the call to local law enforcement there about shots fired, essentially, and the responding local police saw an eyewitness, according to, again, the officials here at this news conference, who said that this eyewitness saw somebody running out of the bushes. They remembered what the car was, a black car. They took a picture of the car and the license plate, which local police say helped them catch this individual, this suspect, on I-95 a little further north from the golf course, essentially. At the scene here, at the golf course, they found in the bushes, they say, an AK-47 rifle with a scope, two backpacks hung on a fence with a ceramic tile inside, and a GoPro camera as well. Now, it is not clear if this individual was able to take a shot at that Secret Service agent who opened fire on him. But I want to bring in now Tom Winter to help us unpack some of this here. Tom, what do you make of what law enforcement found on the scene here? It was striking to hear the Secret Service representative say, essentially, we live in dangerous times, of course, referencing this moment, the threat environment, especially that this is now the second assassination attempt against former President Trump, about 2 months, of course, after that first one in Butler, PA.
That's exactly right, Hallie. And it was kind of what we alluded to prior to this press conference, that there were a number of things that were found, apparently, where they found this semi-automatic rifle. The backpacks with ceramic tiles. I'm scratching my head a little bit to try to understand.
What does that mean? What does that do?
About. You know, I could think of a couple of things, but just in fairness to not speculate, I think I'll hold off for the moment. As far as the GoPro, that is interesting to me. We had heard that about an hour or two ago that was found at this scene. That indicates that somebody perhaps wanted to film this, or maybe perhaps had started filming this prior to fleeing to it. The actions of the witness here, at least as described by the sheriff's office and by law enforcement in Florida, are fairly incredible. He sees this person engaging with the Secret Service, has the presence of mind, and perhaps at risk to him or herself, to take a photograph not only of where this shooter was, but also the vehicle. So what they were talking about there in this real-time crime center and the license plate, once they get that license plate, and I'll use an example, a fake example, ABC123, they can type that into their computer at the real-time crime center. And then they go to their license plate reader system, LPRs, as it's referred to in law enforcement, and they see, do we have that vehicle anywhere? And whenever you use an Easy Pass, or in the case of Florida, Sun Pass, or any of these type of electronic tolling systems, whether or not you have that pass, they're taking constant photographs, but they're also taking an electronic kind of a readout. So they take a photograph, and then the machine recognizes that license plate, and it spits it out. And they say, okay, ABC 1234 was moving north on I-95 at such and such time, and sometimes with some additional information such as speed. It'll also show that photograph when they pull it up on their computer screen. So they'll say, hey, that
Tom,
matches the photo that the guy had. And now we're looking at the scene.
This is now, just so people know, this is what was found hanging on the fence. These are pictures, and the reason why it looks a little bit wobbly, the camera person there at that news conference is basically taking a picture of these pictures there. That's why it's a little bit shaky, but this is what police are showing. We are going to get a digital copy of this, and you see now somebody else taking a picture of a picture and their head in the way here. Tom, I'll go back to you here. But obviously, police releasing now some of the photographs. We've seen these. We've seen, for example, the scene on I-95. You see it there, this other version here. Is there anything that law enforcement can glean from photographs like these? Talk to us about how the investigation will proceed now that they're presumably looking through these backpacks. They're trying to figure out what was this GoPro used for, et cetera.
Right, and you clearly see the weapon there on the ground as well. It's in black silhouette. It's a little bit difficult to make out, but the thing that I can now think of based on where those backpacks are is that in the fact that this person used ceramic tiles. Ceramic is used as a ballistic plate inside of tactical armor. So if we were to be in a war zone, if you were to be a member of the military, you wear a bulletproof type vest, and then you have plates that are ceramic. So perhaps this individual thought if I hang these ceramic tiles there, it could have the same effect. One does not always equal one when we're talking about this, but that's, at least to me, what it would appear what this individual is doing. The GoPro is there on the left. That's also hanging on the fence. That's pointed out towards wherever this individual was firing upon. And then you clearly see the rifle there, or perhaps not so clearly, but you see the scope on it, and you also see where the ammo is located. That's kind of the curve thing that's coming out of where the gun is. So that's at least a sense of what that is. Back to the LPR data, Hallie, I've seen homicide cases and shooting cases solved within a half hour because of that information. So what they said is they knew where this vehicle was. It has a photograph of this, and I believe he described it as a black Nissan. So they would see that the plate matches the car, matches the photo they were given by this witness. And then, and perhaps I misheard it, they said that they flew the witness up there. Palm Beach County Sheriff's does have a robust aviation, so they may have been able to fly him or at least get him in a car. And then they get him to that scene and get him to that location where he's able to make a witness identification of that alleged shooter. The details we'll get shortly. Dave Arenberg, somebody who's done a number of interviews with NBC and MSNBC over the years. He's the local state's attorney there. He says they're typing up the warrants right now. So what they'll do is they'll look at the evidence that they've already recovered, put that in an affidavit, any information that they've received subsequent to that, and then they'll file that. That will then allow them to be able to search the vehicle, search everything about it, and anything that they find, and they're used to working with both the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office as well as the state's attorney's office, used to working with the FBI. They'll hand that over to them. I think at this point, they're going to charge them locally and hold them, as the state's attorney said, just as a matter of course. This will be a federal investigation. It is a federal offense. And so this individual, I would imagine, will be charged federally here within the next day or so, perhaps sooner than that. So that's at least the state of play as it pertains to this investigation. There will be a prosecution at some point, and so we will presumably get a lot more information about this individual and about their social media accounts and their presence and what they believe, or what we glean, or perhaps not a lot, as we saw from the shooting in Butler, Pennsylvania, the first apparent assassination attempt on former President Trump. Though I think in this case, it is more likely than not that we'll at least gather some more information, at least initially, than what was out there as far as the Butler, Pennsylvania shooter.
Tom Winter, thank you very much. I'm going to ask you to stand by while I know you're working the phones. Let me go to Vaughn Hilliard now, our correspondent who covers the Trump campaign. And Vaughn, we know a couple of things here. We know that the president, that the vice president back here in Washington say that they have now, according to the White House, been briefed about what happened. They say they're glad that former President Trump is safe. We know that he himself is now back at Mar-a-Lago, right, from what sources are telling us. What else can you share?
Right. We should note that he was back here at his Mar-a-Lago estate. He got back late last night after a West Coast swing of campaign events. He has no formal events on the docket here today or tomorrow until a crypto business that he is announcing tomorrow night there from Palm Beach here. And so we have seen him enjoy taking his more off days, if you will, on the campaign trail to play golf, whether it be at West Palm Beach, where this incident is evolving, or he was in Los Angeles at his Trump Golf Club just 3 days ago here. But we're so far hearing from one of his sons, Eric Trump, who's saying, quote, serious change is needed.
Vaughn, I got to jump in here. Vaughn, thank you very much. Only because we've got a lot of information here, and we want to make sure that we have a chance now for all our stations to join us. We're going to pause for a second to let folks join in.
This is an NBC News special report. Here's Hallie Jackson.
We're coming on the air now with breaking news about former President Trump. The FBI says it's investigating what it calls a new assassination attempt against the former president at one of his golf courses in South Florida. Now, Mr. Trump is safe after the Secret Service fired in the direction of somebody with an AK-47 style rifle, they say, who was outside Mr. Trump's golf course, aimed it in that direction while Mr. Trump was on the course. Moments ago, top state and federal law enforcement officials said it happened this afternoon. The Secret Service says that along with the rifle, you're looking at a picture here, they found a scope, 2 backpacks, and a GoPro camera. Now, the suspect was then found in a car on I-95, the highway running through South Florida, and taken into custody. Law enforcement officials say they have recovered the gun. I want to let you hear more now from the Palm Beach County Sheriff, Rick Bradshaw.
1:30 this afternoon, call came out, shots fired. That was called in by the Secret Service. Because we're in constant contact with them all the time, we were notified of that, and we had units here that immediately sealed off the area. Fortunately, we were able to locate a witness that came to us and said, hey, I saw the guy running out of the bushes. He jumped into a black Nissan, and I took a picture of the vehicle and the tag.
Police, of course, crediting that eyewitness with helping them catch this suspect here. Now, since that happened, you are looking now at the motorcade from former President Trump leaving the golf course. He is now, we understand, back at his home at Mar-a-Lago. And his campaign says that he is safe. NBC News has also learned that President Biden and Vice President Harris have both been briefed on what happened. That concludes this NBC News special report, but we will have much more ahead on our streaming network, NBC News Now, online at NBCnews.com, and of course tonight on NBC Nightly News. I'm Hallie Jackson. On behalf of all of us here, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Describes as a new assassination attempt against former President Trump near his golf course, Trump International in West Palm Beach, Florida. Let me go back now to our law enforcement correspondent, Tom Winter, as we are getting new information from police, from sources, basically every minute. Tom, talk through what your priorities are now as far as questions that we need answered. I'll tell you that on the top of our list, I think, is did this individual, did this suspect get off any shots at either the Secret Service agent in the direction of former President Trump when this exchange of gunfire happened? That wasn't clear from the briefing that we all just watched together live.
That's exactly right, Hallie. So that's the big question is, was this person able to fire that weapon? And had they fired first prior to Secret Service engaging and firing at this individual? I think that's question number one. Question number two is, of course, there'll be a deep dive into this incident. I thought I heard the sheriff say that he was approximately 500 or more yards away from where Donald Trump was. That's approaching really kind of the upper range of where an excellent semi-automatic rifle person could fire at any individual with any sort of accuracy or ability to hit that person. So really at that range, it's probably very unlikely that they would have been able to hit Trump, thankfully. Obviously, there's a lot of information that's coming out now in law enforcement circles about who this individual might be. We're still trying to gather a little bit more information before we report that. That's going to be the next big step. And also, what did they find in those backpacks? They talked about ceramic tiles. I alluded to earlier what that might be is some sort of perhaps a defense if this person was fired upon. But there's also a car. That car was recovered. So what was in the car, what are on the phones, all that type of information that we talk about all too often, unfortunately, following these either mass shootings or, in the case of the last 3 months, 2 apparent assassination attempts involving Donald Trump. So that's really kind of the initial sphere of this. And as the FBI has stated, they're involved in the investigation at some point. They and the Department of Justice, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Miami, will take this over, and will assume that for now, based on all the details and the fact that this is a federal crime, that they will likely charge this individual federally, and that information will come out in the next 24 to 48 hours. There'll be more information in there, in those court documents that will help us out, and of course, we'll continue to report on all of it, Hallie. But that specific sequence of events is, of course, a big question, and because of what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, and some of the serious concerns about the security plan there in the U.S. Secret Service. Of course, that shooting led to the resignation of the Secret Service director at the time. There'll be a lot of questions here as well, but it does appear, based on what the sheriff said, based on what I've been told, what we alluded to prior to the press conference, the Secret Service's kind of natural steps here involving a former president or a presidential candidate, that they would be ahead of the candidate or the former president in a golf round, several holes ahead of them, kind of scoping the scene out, seeing if there was anybody around. And then obviously there's a robust presence around Trump himself and whoever's golfing with him. That is a presence that's around him. So there's a much more close kind of presence near where Trump would have been. But this individual was advancing that, seeing if there was anything out of the ordinary, anything they need to be concerned about. Obviously spotted this individual. Whether or not the Secret Service fired first, like you said, still a detail we want to know. But the security system here, at least as far as what's been laid out by the Secret Service, initially appears to have worked, but there's a lot more information to get, and obviously we'll stay on top of it, Hallie.
Tom Winter, thank you. I think our Vaughn Hilliard is back with us as well, our correspondent covering the Trump campaign, just checking with our control room to make sure that that's the case. If we do, in fact, have Vaughn. And Vaughn, I want to go back to you since I cut you off to be able to get in that special report to let more stations join us here. But you were talking through the sequence of events now as Tom was laying out, and specifically the perspective from former President Trump, who was on the golf course, was then essentially whisked into a safe location before being taken back to his Mar-a-Lago home.
Right. We're told that he was on the golf course here this afternoon with Steve Witkoff, who is a real estate investor, donor, a friend of Donald Trump's in Florida, and that they were about on the 5th hole there when this incident took place here. And today was Donald Trump got back pretty late last night from a West Coast campaign swing. He had no official campaign events on the docket today, doesn't have any tomorrow here. Mar-a-Lago has really become the place where he has spent most of his down days throughout this campaign. In the West Palm Beach golf course where he's playing is a frequent stop of his on afternoons like this. And for Trump, I think it's important. It was just 2 months ago was the attempted assassination there in Butler, Pennsylvania. And the dynamics of our politics today has increasingly turned to threats and violence. And it's a concern for anybody who is not only covering campaigns, but those that are directly working with it. For a great number of the staff that worked for Donald Trump directly, for his own family, they watched Donald Trump almost be killed 2 months ago in the heart of this summer here. He is the Republican nominee for president. We are 51 days away from the general election here, and he has gone back to having some campaign events outdoors. He's had plexiglass added to around the podium where he speaks, but most of his events have been moved indoors here. But this is one where, you know, we just saw his son Eric Trump tweet out just a bit ago saying, in part, quote, serious change is needed here. This is a point in this country. We watched this in a debate that played out on Tuesday here. We do not know the motives of this individual, what led them to go, and if the FBI is correct in its early assessment here of an apparent attempted assassination here, what led this individual to try to take the life of the former president here. But this is one where, you know, in talking to voters and people that are coming to political events, you have the opportunity in this country to have an exchange of ideas. And at this moment in our politics, it has become perhaps more than ever fervent. And we have heard calls for violence. We have heard fears that a civil war is imminent from so many people that are on the ground engaged in this political process here. And we have seen threats not only made to political candidates, an attempted assassination on the life of the former president. We have seen threats made to members of our justice system, prosecutors, judges. Justice Kavanaugh of the Supreme Court had a threat against his life 2 years ago. A man was arrested outside of his home with a firearm. This is a moment where we have seen members of Congress be shot at. And I think that for the country here, this is a moment where, in the words of J.D. Vance, his vice presidential running mate, he just tweeted out a few moments ago that he'll be hugging his kids extra tight tonight and saying a prayer of gratitude.
Yeah.
This is, I think, a moment here where it's not clear what is ahead for this country. But coming off of watching police officers be beaten on January 6th and an attempted effort to stop the certification of the vote after Donald Trump's defeat in 2020, this is a moment where it's not clear where the country is going. But after one attempted assassination, the hope was that we would not see these types of events going forward. But clearly here this afternoon, while Donald Trump was playing golf, another individual sought, at least based off of the FBI's early indications here, sought to take the life of Donald Trump.
Vaughn Hilliard, our Trump campaign correspondent. Vaughn, thank you very much. We are going to have much more coverage of what the FBI describes as another assassination attempt against former President Donald Trump coming up tonight on NBC Nightly News and, of course, online at NBCnews.com. For all of us here at the network, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you soon.
What's going on, guys? Happy Sunday. Really interesting. I wanted to take a minute to go live and just share this. Some of you guys may have seen it. Some of you guys may have not. but I started seeing the things come through social media basically stating that there was another assassination attempt. That was about an hour or so ago. Looks like the news stations didn't want to pick it up until it was confirmed. But very interesting times. Not sure what you guys think this means. I'm interested to hear anybody's thoughts. You're welcome to throw it in the chat or maybe talk about it with us in social media. But what's the significance of this, right? Is there this big of a hatred for this guy that we have 2 assassination attempts in the course of a couple months? I don't know that this has happened with any other president or presidential candidate. It's going to be interesting to see if that's what that means. What's the significance of that? And what does it mean? I don't know. Is the hatred this bad? Is this really what this comes down to, that we are going to attack this person's lifetime again? At what point is politics going to just remain politics and it doesn't become this? What's motivating this, right? This is the things, these are the questions that I ask. What really is motivating this? Is it just the hatred? Is it just mentally ill people? Is it a gun problem, right? Is it the news media that is putting this much hatred towards somebody that people feel like their only choice is to take this kind of action? And I don't think this action should be taken on either side, right? This is not how this is supposed to go. So it's very interesting times, very sad. Interested to see what you guys think this means, right? What does this say about where we are as a nation overall? What does this say about where we are as a people? And does this impact the presidential election? I'm not sure. It's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. But that being said, I really appreciate you guys jumping in here and watching this thing. Jamal says that dismantling NATO is causing this. Yeah, I have no idea. Maybe it is. Who knows? But I'm interested in seeing your guys' thoughts. Today, we're going to be having a really good podcast talking about some cool things that we're going to continue to try our best to cover what's happening in our world today. But more importantly than that, discuss important things that are happening in our lives. I think Tuesday's podcast is going to be a really interesting conversation to address exactly that. That being said, I hope you guys are on a fantastic Sunday, doing something special with your days. Go enjoy the rest of your weekend. Do something great this week. Hopefully, I'll see you guys on Tuesday, 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Go have a fantastic week. See you guys in a couple days.